Welcome back to the deep dive. We're doing something a little different today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, usually we're looking at the world out there, you
Uh-huh.
know? We're talking tech trends, geopolitical shifts, market dynamics, all that big picture stuff.
The macro view.
Exactly. But today, we are turning the microscope inward. We are looking at the architecture of us, of human behavior.
And specifically, the perennial question, isn't it? Why is it so incredibly hard to do the things we say we want to do?
It is. It's that gap between what we intend to do and what we actually do. And I want to set the stage with a statistic that I found in the pre-reading for this, and it was, frankly, a little depressing.
Oh, boy. Let's have it.
We all know the whole New Year's resolution thing,
It's
right?
the annual ritual of self-improvement followed by disappointment.
Exactly. But the data suggests that by the second week of February, so, right about now for a lot of people, and something like 80% of those resolutions have just failed.
80%. Wow.
Gone. Kaput. And my typical response to that failure, historically, has been, just beating myself up.
Right. I'm lazy. I lack discipline.
Yes. I tell myself, I just need to, white knuckle it harder next time, just more grit. But the entire stack of research we have in front of us today, it basically says that my entire premise is just wrong.
And that's, I think, the first really big red pill moment of this deep dive. If you are relying on willpower to change your life, you are statistically, well, you're guaranteeing your own failure.
That's a huge statement, guaranteeing it.
I think so. The research we're pulling from today, I mean, it's everything from behavioral economics to neurology.
Yeah.
It all suggests willpower is of a finite resource. It's like a muscle, or maybe a better analogy, a phone battery.
Okay, a battery.
It drains throughout the day. Every decision you make, every temptation you resist, it depletes it. So if your whole strategy for change relies on a battery that dies every day at 4 p.m., your strategy is fundamentally broken.
So, okay, if we take willpower off the table, or at least, downgrade it from the driver to maybe a passenger, what are we left with? Because we have a massive stack of sources here. We've got methodologies from people like James Clear, B.J. Fogg, Charles Duhigg.
We've got neuroscientific papers on feedback loops, dopamine spikes, all of that.
So what's the common thread? What connects all these different approaches?
The common thread is systems. The mission for this entire deep dive is to move you, the listener, from a mindset of trying harder.
The white knuckle approach.
Right, from that to a mindset of designing better. We want to look at habit formation not as like a moral test of your character, but as an engineering problem.
An engineering problem. I like that. It immediately removes the guilt.
It does. It's not about you being good or bad. It's about your system being effective or ineffective. It's about moving from trying to becoming. And to get there, we really had to dismantle a lot of myths. We need to strip this whole thing down to the studs.
Okay, let's start with the biggest myth of them all. I feel like I have heard this my entire life. It takes 21 days to form a habit.
Ah, yes. The magic number.
I have repeated this at dinner parties. I think I've bet money on this. I've told friends, just stick with it for 3 weeks and you're golden.
And you would have lost that money every single time.
Break it to me gently. Is
Yeah.
it totally false?
It's a complete myth. A beautiful, simple, and utterly wrong myth. It actually comes from a plastic surgeon in the 1950s, a guy named Maxwell Maltz.
A plastic surgeon, what does he have to do with habits?
Well, he noticed that it took his patients about 21 days to get used to seeing a new nose in the mirror or, to adjust to an amputated limb, an adjustment period.
Okay, so an observation about perception.
Exactly. And somewhere along the line, the self-help industry, which, loves a catchy, simple hook, turned a minimum of about 21 days for adjustment into it takes exactly 21 days to automate a behavior.
So it's just a giant game of telephone that went wrong.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
So, what does the actual data say? If it's not 21 days, then what is it?
The study that's usually cited for this now is from University College London. They followed people who were trying to build new habits, everything from, drinking a glass of water with lunch to doing 50 push-ups before breakfast.
A pretty wide range.
A very wide range.
Yeah.
And they found the actual time it took for the behavior to feel automatic was between 18 days on the very low end and 254 days on the high end.
254 days. That's almost 9 months. That is terrifying.
It is, but it really depends on the complexity and the friction of the habit. Drinking a glass of water, that's easy. It's low friction. That might take you, 20-something days.
But the push-ups.
Doing a 45-minute calisthenics routine before breakfast every single day, That's incredibly high friction. That's going to take a long, long time to automate. The average across all habits in the study landed around 66 days,
So 2 months.
roughly. But the specific number isn't really the point.
What is the point then?
The point is that if you hit day 22 or day 35 or day 50 and it still feels hard, you're not broken.
You haven't failed.
You haven't failed. You're just early. You're
Yeah.
still in the construction phase. The foundation is still wet.
That is actually incredibly liberating. It just completely changes the timeline of expectations. If I know it might take me 6 months for something to feel truly automatic, I'm not going to quit at 3 weeks thinking I've done something wrong.
Exactly. It gives you the grace to be patient.
Okay. So before we get into the nuts and bolts, because I definitely want to talk about the habit loop and habit stacking, we have to talk about the foundation. All the sources call this the identity shift.
The starting point.
Yes. And honestly, when I first read this section, my skepticism radar went way off. It sounded a bit, I don't know, a bit fluffy.
A little woo-woo.
Yeah, a little manifesting your reality,
I can totally see why you'd say that.
Yeah.
Standing in front of a mirror and saying, I am a runner, when you haven't run in a decade. It sounds like an empty affirmation. But this isn't about magic. It's actually grounded in cognitive dissonance theory.
Okay. Explain that connection. How does that work?
Well, look at how most people set goals. They focus almost exclusively on the outcome.
Like, I want to lose 10 kilograms, or I want to write a book.
Exactly. I want to run a marathon, which all sounds very sensible, right? You need a target to aim for.
Of course.
You do. But the problem with purely outcome-based goals is that they're binary. You are either a success or a failure until the very moment you cross that finish line.
So you spend 99% of your time in a state of failure.
A state of pre-success, maybe. But
Yeah.
yeah, you're constantly falling short of your goal. And then what happens after you achieve it?
Right. I've seen this. Someone runs the marathon, they get the medal, they post it on Instagram, and then they don't run again for 2 years.
Exactly. The motivation completely evaporates because the goal was the finish line. The identity shift argues that you should flip that on its head. You should focus on who you want to become, not what you want to achieve.
So instead of, I want to run a marathon, the goal is,
I am a runner.
but isn't that just a lying to yourself? If I'm sitting on the couch eating Cheetos saying I am a runner, doesn't make me a runner, it just makes me a delusional person with orange fingers.
It's not about lying. That's the key distinction. It's about building a case for yourself. Think of it like a legal case, or maybe a democratic election. You can't just claim the title of president. You have to cast votes.
Okay, unpack the voting analogy. I know that was a big part of the Atomic Habits material we looked at.
Right. It's simple but powerful. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become.
So every time I go to the gym, even if it's for 10 minutes,
That's one vote for the identity of athlete. Every time you choose the salad over the fries, that's a vote for a healthy person. Every time you write just one paragraph, you're casting a vote for writer.
okay, I see the distinction now. It's not fake it till you make it. It's more like prove it to yourself in small increments.
Precisely. And you don't need a unanimous vote to win an election, right? You just need a majority. You can still eat a donut occasionally. That's a vote for the other guy. But if 80% of your actions, your votes are for healthy person, that is the identity that your brain will start to adopt.
And here's the kicker, I guess. Once you truly deep down believe I am a healthy person,
You don't need willpower to eat the salad.
because that's just what healthy people do.
It's what they do. It becomes part of who you are. True behavior change is identity change. It resolves that cognitive dissonance we talked about. If you believe you're a healthy person, eating a whole pizza feels uncomfortable. It feels wrong for your system.
But if your identity is a lazy person who is trying to be healthy,
Then eating the pizza feels natural, and the salad feels like a punishment. It feels like a deviation from who you really are.
that is a profound shift. There is a line in the notes, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.
That's the golden rule right there. Winners and losers, they often have the exact same goals. Every single Olympian wants to win the gold medal. The goal isn't the differentiator.
The system is. The collection of habits that casts the votes.
The system is what makes the difference.
Okay, so if the system is the vehicle, how do we start the engine? Because this is where and I think a lot of people get stuck. I have the goal, I have the desire, but the inertia of the couch is just, it's real. Getting started is physically difficult.
And this brings us to the concept of friction, or in chemistry terms, activation energy.
Right.
In chemistry, activation energy is the minimum amount of energy you need to get a reaction started.
Yeah.
It's the spark. In human behavior, that spark we try to create is often way too demanding. We make the hill too steep to climb from a standstill.
We say, starting Monday, I'm going to go to the gym for 90 minutes every single day.
And your brain, which is fundamentally designed to conserve energy, I mean, we are evolutionary energy misers, it looks at that massive 90-minute commitment and it just says, absolutely not. It floods you with resistance.
So what's the solution?
The solution, according to all this methodology, is to lower the activation energy until it is, well, until it's embarrassingly low.
This is the 2-minute rule.
This is the 2-minute rule. Reduce any new habit to a version that takes 2 minutes or less to complete.
Give me some examples.
Read 30 books this year becomes read 1 page. Run a 5K becomes put on my running shoes and socks.
Do a full yoga routine becomes roll out my yoga mat.
Yes, that's it, exactly.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here because I know some listeners are thinking this. If I put on my running shoes and then I just sit back down on the couch, I haven't actually exercised. If I read 1 page, I haven't really learned anything significant. Is this just a psychological trick or is there real utility in just those 2 minutes?
It is a trick, but it's a neurological one with immense utility. What you're doing is mastering the art of showing up.
The art of showing up.
A habit must be established before it can be improved. Let me say that again. A habit must be established before it can be improved. You can't optimize a habit that doesn't exist yet. By just doing the 2-minute version, you are reinforcing the neural pathway for starting. You're casting that tiny vote for your new identity.
And then, I suppose, practically speaking, once the shoes are on, physics takes over, and object in motion tends to stay in motion.
Exactly. The hardest part of any workout is those first 120 seconds. It's the transition from rest to action. If you can just get past the threshold of your front door, the rest usually takes care of itself. You almost never put on all your running gear and then just immediately take it off.
It prevents that all or nothing paralysis. I am so guilty of this. If I know I can't do my perfect 1-hour workout, I just do nothing at all.
Which is the absolute death of consistency. And the sources are crystal clear on this point. Consistency beats intensity every single time. No contest.
There's a math breakdown in the notes that I just loved. The 1% rule.
Oh, it's so powerful because it's completely non-intuitive. The math is simple. If you get just 1% better every day for a year.
Which feels manageable. 1% is tiny.
It is. But mathematically, that's 1.01 to the power of 365. And at the end of the year, you end up 37 times better than when you started.
37 times better. That's insane. It's exponential growth.
It is. But the reverse is also true. And this is the scary part. If you get 1% worse every day, if you make a slightly poor choice, you skip the small thing. That's 0.99 to the power of 365. You decline to nearly 0.
So habits are the compound interest of self-improvement.
That is the perfect analogy. You don't really see the results on a day-to-day basis, which is why so many people quit. They're stuck in what James Clear calls the valley of disappointment.
A valley of disappointment. I like that phrase. It's that period where you're putting in the work, you're doing the thing every day, but you're not seeing the results yet.
Right. And it feels like it's not working. The best analogy for this is heating an ice cube.
Okay.
Imagine you have a big ice cube sitting on a table in a room that's 25 degrees Fahrenheit. You start to slowly heat the room. You raise the temperature to 26 degrees. Nothing happens. 27. Still nothing. 28, 29, 30, 31. Still just a solid block of ice.
And you've done all this work. You've added all this energy into the system, and you have absolutely nothing to show for it.
Exactly. And that is the point where most people quit. They say, see, this isn't working.
But then you hit 32 degrees.
You hit 32 degrees, and the breakthrough happens. The ice begins to melt. A massive stow change occurs. All the important work happened in those degrees from 25 to 31, but the result only showed up at 32. That is the nature of habit formation. You have to be willing to sit in that valley of disappointment and just trust that the physics will work.
So we're playing the long game. We're casting our small votes every day. Now let's look under the hood. What is physically happening in the brain when a habit forms? The sources all talk about this habit loop.
Yeah, this comes primarily from Charles Duhigg's work, but it's backed up by decades of basic neuroscience. Your brain is, as we said, an energy-saving machine. When it encounters a totally new situation, it has to work really hard.
The prefrontal cortex is firing on all cylinders.
The CEO of the brain, the part responsible for complex decision-making, is fully engaged. But the brain hates using it. It consumes a ton of glucose. It's inefficient. So the brain's goal is always to offload recurring tasks to the basal ganglia,
The more primitive part of the brain.
the part that handles automatic patterns. It wants to go on autopilot as quickly as possible. And to do that, it builds a simple four-step loop: cue, craving, response, and reward.
Okay, walk us through a real-world example of that loop. Maybe a bad habit, since those seem to form so easily.
Sure. Let's take the classic afternoon energy crash. The cue is the time of day. Let's say it's 3 p.m., and maybe a feeling of slight boredom or fatigue at your desk.
Okay, so the cue is a trigger. It's some piece of information that predicts a reward is coming.
Correct. After the cue comes the craving. Now, this is a really important distinction. The craving isn't actually for a cookie or a cigarette or Instagram. The craving is for a change in your internal state.
So I don't crave the cookie itself.
You crave the feeling the cookie provides. You want to feel more alert. You want a distraction. You want a break. The cookie is just the brain's interpretation of how to get that state change.
So the cookie is just the vehicle for the feeling.
Right. Then comes the response, which is the actual habit. Getting up, walking to the break room, chatting with colleagues, and eating the cookie.
And finally, the reward.
The reward. You get a sugar hit, which feels good, and maybe some social interaction, which also feels good. And once the brain links 3:00 p.m. boredom with that sugar and social reward, the loop is closed. It's locked in.
And the next time 3 p.m. rolls around, you don't even consciously choose to eat the cookie. You just find yourself at the break room, cookie in hand.
The basal ganglia has completely taken over. And the really crazy part is that the craving phase actually spikes your dopamine levels before you even take the action. Your brain predicts the reward and releases that pleasure chemical in anticipation, which motivates you to complete the loop.
That explains so much. It's why the anticipation of a vacation is often more exciting than the vacation itself.
It's the exact same mechanism. It's the brain's prediction error system. So if we want to build good habits, we can't fight this loop. We have to hack it. We have to consciously design a cue, foster a craving, enable a response, and ensure there's a satisfying reward.
You can't just hope it happens. You have to engineer it.
You have to be the engineer.
Okay, so the sources suggest a very specific tactic for the cue part of that loop called habit stacking. This seems like maybe the most practical tool for people who feel like they're too busy to add anything new.
Oh, it's incredibly efficient because it leverages momentum you already have. Instead of setting a time-based reminder like, I will meditate at 7 a.m., which requires you to look at a clock and make a new decision.
Right. Another decision to make.
You just anchor the new habit you want to build onto an old one that's already completely automatic.
The formula is simple. After I do my current habit, I will do my new habit.
Correct. You already have thousands of reliable automatic habits. You brush your teeth, you brew coffee, you take off your shoes when you get home. These are like synaptic superhighways that are already paved in your brain. They are strong, fast connections. You just want to build a little on-ramp to them.
So an example would be, after I pour my morning cup of coffee, I will open my journal and write one sentence.
Perfect. Or, after I take off my work shoes, I will immediately put on my gym clothes. The act of taking off the shoes becomes the trigger. It completely bypasses the decision-making process.
Decision fatigue is so real. I mean, by 5 p.m., I can't even decide what to have for dinner, let alone summon the energy to decide to start a whole new self-improvement project.
Exactly. You want to remove decision from the equation wherever possible. And this is also where something called implementation intentions comes in. It's a slightly more specific version of stacking.
It's like an if-then protocol for your life.
It is. If it is Tuesday morning, then I will go to the gym after I drop the kids at school. Or if I feel stressed at my desk, then I will take 3 deep breaths.
It sounds almost robotic, like programming yourself.
It is robotic, and that is the entire point. You want to robotize the basics so you can save your precious brain power for the complex creative stuff. You don't want to burn mental energy deciding whether or not to floss. The goal is to make the good thing the default thing.
Okay, so we're stacking our habits, we're making these triggers automatic, but we exist in a physical world. And there was a quote in the research that really hit me hard. Environment design is more powerful than willpower. That feels like a very bold claim.
It's bold, but I think the evidence shows it's accurate. We all like to think that we're these independent agents making rational choices based on our deep values.
That we're in the driver's seat.
Right. But in reality, we are highly, highly reactive to our context, to our environment. This is a field called choice architecture.
Give me an example of how this is working on us in a way that's maybe invisible.
Think about a supermarket. It's a masterclass in choice architecture. The items at eye level sell exponentially more than the ones on the bottom shelf. The milk is always at the back of the store, so you have to walk past everything else to get it.
And the candy is always at the checkout.
Always. Why? To trigger impulse buys, when your willpower, your decision-making battery, is at its lowest after an hour of shopping. You're not choosing that Snickers bar because you deeply value it. You're buying it because the environment made it the path of least resistance at a moment of weakness.
So how do we weaponize this for ourselves? The sources mention two main laws for our own environments. Make the good habits obvious and make them easy.
That's it. Let's take the classic example of wanting to practice guitar more. If you want to practice guitar, do not keep the guitar in its hard case in the back of a closet.
Too much friction.
Way too much friction. By the time you walk to the closet, pull it out, open the case, get it out, the creative impulse you had is completely gone. Instead, put the guitar on a stand right in the middle of your living room.
It becomes a visual cue.
I like to call it a visual scream. It's just sitting there, begging to be played.
Yeah.
If you want to drink more water, don't rely on remembering. Fill 5 water bottles in the morning and put them on every single surface you work at. You will drink them without even thinking. You are making the cue obvious.
And make it easy is about reducing the number of steps, reducing that friction.
Yes. If you want to eat healthier, chop up your vegetables as soon as you get home from the grocery store. Put them in clear containers right at eye level in the fridge. If you have to wash, peel, and chop a carrot when you're hungry and tired, you're going to grab the bag of chips instead. You have to front-load the effort.
And what about the inverse of this? For breaking bad habits.
You just flip the laws, make it invisible, and make it hard.
Increase the friction for the bad stuff.
As much as possible. If you want to stop checking your phone in bed, don't just put it on the nightstand. Buy a cheap alarm clock and physically charge your phone in the kitchen overnight.
That one hurts. I know I should do it, but the thought of that friction.
That's the whole point. You want that friction. If you have to get out of your warm, comfortable covers and walk across a cold floor into another room to check Instagram at midnight, you probably won't do it. You have dramatically increased the activation energy required for that bad habit.
I've heard of people doing things like taking the batteries out of their TV remote to stop mindlessly channel surfing.
Or unplugging their video game console and putting the cord in a drawer after every single session. It sounds extreme, but you have to realize you're fighting against teams of brilliant engineers at billion-dollar companies who have designed their products to be as addictive and frictionless as possible. You have to fight back with your own design. You are the architect of your own space. If you don't consciously design your environment, it will unconsciously design you.
Speaking of addiction and urges, let's talk about the 90-second rule. This was a really specific tactic I found for when a craving hits. Because we can design our environment perfectly, but eventually you're going to walk past a bakery, or you're going to feel that phantom buzz in your pocket.
This is a crucial tool for impulse control. It comes from neuroscience. The research shows that an emotion or a craving is, at its core, a chemical flush in your body. And like any wave, it rises, it crests, and then it falls. The entire lifespan of that chemical wave is roughly 60 to 90 seconds.
So if I can just survive for a minute and a half.
You win. The urge will pass on its own. The problem is most of us feel the beginning of that urge and we panic. We think, oh no, this feeling is going to last forever unless I satisfy it right now. So we give in immediately just to make the uncomfortable feeling stop.
But the strategy is to surf the urge.
Just surf it. Acknowledge it. Name it. I'm feeling a strong craving for sugar right now. And just sit with it. Observe it without judgment. It will dissipate on its own.
It sounds a lot like a mindfulness or meditation practice. Observing the feeling rather than becoming the feeling.
It's the exact same principle. You are creating a space between the stimulus and your response. And every single time you ride that 90-second wave without crashing and giving in, you weaken that synaptic link in your brain. You are retraining your brain that the cue does not have to automatically equal the reward. You are actively breaking the habit loop.
Okay, let's pivot to that last part of the loop. The reward. Because this, to me, seems to be where good habits usually fail us. The reward for a bad habit like eating a donut is immediate and obvious.
Dopamine hit. Instantly.
But the reward for a good habit like saving money for retirement is decades away. Our brains are just not wired for that kind of delayed gratification.
Not at all. We have ancient hunter-gatherer brains living in a completely modern world. We value the present moment excessively over the future. In economics, this is called hyperbolic discounting.
Hyperbolic discounting.
We value $10 today, much, much more than we value $20 next month, even though that's a 100% return. Our ancestors needed calories now to survive the day. They didn't need to worry about their 401ks.
So, to make good habits stick, we have to somehow artificialize the reward. We have to bring the pleasure forward in time.
You absolutely do. You have to find a way to close that dopamine loop immediately. You can't just wait for the good health to show up in 6 months. You need a little pat on the back today.
So, how do we do that? I mean, we can't force our retirement account to pay out a dividend every time we skip buying a latte.
No, but you can create an immediate proxy reward. The sources talk a lot about temptation bundling. This is a strategy that was popularized by a researcher named Katie Milkman at the University of Pennsylvania. She studied this with audiobooks and going to the gym.
Oh, is this the Hunger Games study? I remember reading about this.
Yes, she was a grad student and she knew she should go to the gym, but she just wanted to lie on her couch and listen to her favorite, addictive audiobook.
A very relatable problem.
Very. So she made a rule for herself. She was only allowed to listen to that audiobook while she was physically at the gym exercising.
So she bundled the want with the should.
Exactly. And she found that suddenly she was craving going to the gym because the gym became the gateway to the story she was desperate to hear. You use the thing you love as the bait for the thing you need to do.
So I can only watch my favorite Netflix show while I'm folding laundry.
Or I can only drink my fancy, expensive latte while I'm processing my work emails.
It turns the chore into the price of admission for the treat.
And eventually, I imagine the brain starts to associate the dopamine of the treat with the chore itself. The gym becomes the reward because it signals audiobook time.
That's the goal. You're hijacking the reward system.
What about tracking? I mean, Jerry Seinfeld's famous don't break the chain method? This is a classic productivity hack.
Visual tracking is huge. It works on a couple of levels. Putting a big red X on a physical calendar every day that you, say, write for 15 minutes. It's incredibly satisfying.
It makes your progress visible. It does. And it leverages what we call psychological momentum. You look at the calendar, you see this chain of 12 X's in a row, and you think, wow, I am a disciplined person.
Yeah.
I am a writer. I'm not going to ruin this beautiful streak today. It gamifies the process.
But there is a real danger there, isn't there? I've seen people get almost obsessive about the streak, and then the first time they miss one day because they were sick or traveling, they just collapse. They quit the habit entirely.
That is the what the hell effect. And that is a real documented psychological term.
And what the hell effect?
It's the logic that says, well, I ate one cookie, so my diet is ruined for today, so I might as well eat the whole box.
Right.
Or I missed one day of journaling, so my perfect streak is dead, so I might as well just stop altogether.
It's so illogical when you say it out loud, but it feels so real in the moment. It's that perfectionism trap.
It is. And it's the danger of worshiping the metric instead of the mission. The streak is a tool, not the goal. This brings us to what I think is the most resilient and important rule in this entire stack of research. Never miss twice.
Explain that one, because it sounds simple, but I feel like there's a lot of depth to it.
It's the strategy for when life inevitably happens. And life will happen. You will get the flu. You will have a family emergency. You will have a day where you are just exhausted and lazy. Missing once is an accident. It's a data point. It doesn't meaningfully impact your long-term trajectory at all.
But missing twice.
Missing twice.
Hmm.
That's the start of a new bad habit. That's the first vote for I'm a person who slacks off. If you miss one workout, you're a professional athlete taking a well-deserved rest day. If you miss 2, 3, 4 workouts in a row, you are slipping back into the identity of someone who doesn't exercise.
So the goal isn't never miss, because that's impossible and sets you up for failure. The goal is never miss twice in a row.
Rapid recovery. That is the most important skill to cultivate. If you have a massive binge eat on a Friday night, you don't starve yourself on Saturday to make up for it. That's just a shame cycle. You just wake up and eat a normal, healthy breakfast. You get back on the horse immediately. The speed of your recovery is far more important than the illusion of a perfect streak.
It seems to be the theme weaving through all of this. Flexibility over rigidity, systems over sheer willpower.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Your system has to be robust enough to handle failure. If your entire system breaks, the moment you have one bad day, you don't have a system. You have a house of cards.
I want to touch on one final concept from the deep dive notes before we start to synthesize all this. Monk mode. This sounds intense. It seems to be for people who want to go to the extreme. What is it, and is it realistic for, normal people?
Monk mode is a term that's become popular in a lot of productivity and hustle culture circles. And it usually means a period of intense, high-intensity isolation and focus. No distractions, no social media, just pure, deep work on a single goal.
Not very realistic for most of us.
No. We have jobs and kids and partners and friends. We can't just go live in a cave for 3 months. But the sources suggest a more sustainable version of this idea for the average listener.
A sustainable monk mode.
Exactly. It's not about total isolation. It's about anchoring your entire life on 3 non-negotiables, 3 keystone habits.
Keystone habits, what are those?
The 3 that are usually recommended are some form of physical training, some form of deep work, and some form of reflection.
Training, deep work, and reflection.
The argument is that if you consistently take care of your body through training, your professional or creative output through deep work, and your mind through reflection like journaling or meditation, the rest of your life can be a little chaotic, and you'll still be grounded. You'll still be moving forward.
So these are keystone habits because they have a ripple effect.
Precisely. A keystone habit is a single behavior that naturally pulls other good behaviors along with it. When you start exercising consistently, you tend to start eating better because you don't want to waste the workout. When you eat better, you sleep better. When you sleep better, you can focus better during your deep work sessions. You don't have to try to fix 50 things at once. You just fix the one keystone, and it starts to align everything else.
I love that. It really simplifies the chaos. Instead of having a list of 20 New Year's resolutions, just pick one keystone habit.
And protect it with your life.
Yeah.
Build your system around that one thing first.
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground here. I mean, from the myth of 21 days to the neurology of the basal ganglia to habit stacking, environment design, temptation bundling, all of it. If we had to distill this entire deep dive into a cheat sheet like a mental Post-it note for the listener to take away, what are the golden rules?
Let's boil it down to 4. I think 4 is a good number. Rule 1, identity over outcome. Don't focus on what you want to get. Focus on who you are becoming. Cast votes for your desired identity. Rule 2, small is king. Use the 2-minute rule. Lower the bar so low that you can't possibly fail. Master the art of just showing up. Consistency over intensity.
All right, rule 3.
Rule 3, design over willpower. Make the good stuff obvious and easy. Make the bad stuff invisible and hard. Be the architect of your world, because if you're not, someone else will be.
And the final one, rule 4.
Rule 4, never miss twice. Forgive the first slip-up because it's inevitable, but never, ever allow the second one. Focus on rapid recovery, not on perfection.
And I guess underneath all of that, supporting all 4 of those rules, is that core idea of the vote.
That is the thought I really want to leave everyone with. It's a provocation that comes from this research. We often think that doing nothing is a neutral act. You know, if I skipped the gym today, I just stayed the same. But you didn't.
You cast a vote for the other guy.
You did. You cast a vote for the identity of, I am not a person who exercises. You are always voting in every moment. Time is going to pass regardless. A year from now, you will be a year older. That is a certainty. The only question is, will you be 37 times better, or will you have slid back down towards 0? The votes are being cast today, right now, whether you're paying attention to them or not.
That is slightly terrifying, but also incredibly empowering, because it means the very next choice I make really matters. So here's the challenge to you, the listener. Do not just turn off this deep dive and mindlessly open Instagram. Pick one thing, one tiny habit. Maybe it's drinking a glass of water right now. Maybe it's doing 2 push-ups against the wall. Maybe it's just putting a book on your pillow for tonight. Decide what it is and do it. Cast that first vote. Thank you for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.